Trapped in a dangerous world, young boy Sam's only hope was this police canine dog. Fleeing from a terrifying human trafficking ring, Sam finds himself cornered in a remote hideout, hunted by those who won't stop until they find him. His only ally is Diego, a brave police canine with an unbreakable bond to Sam, whose instincts may be the only thing that can save them both. As danger closes in, secrets unravel, and a deadly confrontation loom. Will Diego's loyalty be enough to expose the truth and free Sam? The distant hum of Diego's truck grew louder as he steered it down the narrow gravel path leading to his home. The tires crunched beneath him, the steady rhythm accompanied by the sharp scent of fresh pine and damp earth from the forest that surrounded his property. It had been a long shift. His eyes felt heavy from hours of chasing down suspects, but as the truck rolled to a stop outside his house, he was greeted by a different kind of presence, one that immediately caught his attention. Smarty, his loyal German shepherd, was sitting just outside the shed. Normally, the dog would be waiting for him at the front door, tail wagging, eager for a bit of attention after a long day. But tonight, Smarty was tense, his body coiled like a spring. His ears were flattened against his head, and his eyes never strayed from the shed. A low growl rumbled from deep in his chest, warning anyone nearby to stay away. Diego's curiosity piqued, and he stepped out of the truck, his boots making no sound as he approached. Smarty's growl deepened, though the dog didn't take his eyes off the shed. Diego crouched beside him, running his hand through the thick fur on his back. "What's got you all worked up, boy?" he murmured, glancing toward the shed. There was nothing unusual about the place. It was just a small storage building where Diego kept old tools and garden equipment. But something was different tonight. The air felt thick with tension, almost as if the world around him had stilled in anticipation. He nodded at Smarty. "Let's go see." Slowly, he approached the shed, his boots crunching over the ground. Smarty followed at his side, still growling, but not moving ahead. The closer they got, the more Diego's unease grew. There was something, or someone, inside. Diego pushed the door open cautiously. It creaked on its hinges, but not with the usual soft, familiar sound. This one was strained, like the door hadn't been open in a long time. His hand tightened around the handle of the flashlight in his pocket as he stepped inside. The smell of dust and old would fill the air. In the corner, something shifted. A teenage boy, no older than 16 or 17, scrambled to his feet. His clothes were torn and dirty, his face pale with fear. His eyes darted around the shed, as if searching for a way to escape. Smarty's growl intensified. Diego, however, stepped forward, his hand raised in a calm gesture. "Easy, boy," he whispered. The dog fell silent, but kept his watchful gaze on the stranger. The boy flinched, his back pressed against the wooden wall as he stammered, Please don't hurt me." Diego's brow furrowed. "I'm not going to hurt you. What's your name?" The boy hesitated, his fingers twitching nervously. He looked over his shoulder, his eyes filled with panic. "Sam," he said finally, his voice shaky. I didn't know where else to go." Diego took a step closer, but kept his distance. Smarty's protective stance told him everything he needed to know. The dog was watching the boy like a hawk, his instincts telling Diego that Sam wasn't a threat, but that someone or something else was. "Why were you hiding here?" Diego asked, his voice steady but cautious. Sam glanced down at his shoes, as if trying to find the right words. He swallowed hard. I ran away. My foster home." His voice cracked, and he choked back a sob. Diego watched him carefully. Something about the boy didn't add up. He didn't look like a typical runaway. There was fear in his eyes, something far more dangerous than just running from a bad situation. "Okay," Diego said, softening his tone. "How about you come with me? You can have something to eat, and we'll talk. You can tell me what's really going on." Sam looked up, his eyes wide with a mix of relief and caution. He glanced at Smarty, then back at Diego. After a long pause, he nodded slowly. "Thank you. I just need to get away from them. They won't stop looking for me." Diego helped the boy to his feet, keeping an eye on him as they walked back to the house. Smarty followed, his gaze never leaving Sam. Once inside, Diego made a quick meal for Sam, who ate hungrily, but there was still a nervous edge to him. He kept looking over his shoulder, his eyes flickering to the windows, as if expecting someone to appear at any moment. Over the next few days, Diego allowed Sam to stay in the spare room, but things only seemed to get more intense. Smarty became more agitated, barking at the door and the windows whenever Sam tried to leave the property. It wasn't just the dog. Something about the way Sam looked at the road, the way he tensed whenever a car passed by, made Diego think that the boy wasn't just running for a bad home. Then, one evening, when the sun was barely starting to dip below the trees, Diego spotted something odd. A car, unfamiliar and dark, rolled slowly past his driveway, its headlights sweeping across the front of the house. It didn't stop, but the slow, deliberate speed gave Diego the feeling that it was keeping watch. The next night, another car passed, the driver's face hidden in the shadows. Diego's instincts flared. He needed to know who was looking for Sam, and why. That night, he pulled up Sam's social media profiles. What he found chilled him. Cryptic messages, vague photos, and a trail of posts that spoke of fear, of being watched. Things far darker than what Sam had told him. It was then that Diego began to piece together the real story. Sam wasn't just running from an abusive foster home. He was running from something far worse, something that had been tracking him, and now, it seemed, it was closing in. The following day, the tension in the house seemed thicker than the morning fog. Diego hadn't slept much, his mind whirling with the discoveries he had made. Sam had been awake too, pacing restlessly in the spare room. The boy hadn't spoken much, but Diego could tell something gnawed at him, something far beyond the story of an abusive home life. There was fear in his eyes, a raw, unspoken terror. Diego had barely finished his morning coffee when his phone buzzed, a sharp reminder that he had to keep moving. It was Olivia, his best friend, and the one person he trusted in this mess. Diego. Olivia's voice came through the phone, low and urgent. I've been hearing things. There are people looking for Sam. Bad people. I don't need to tell you that they're not going to stop until they find him. I'm warning you now. This is bigger than you think. Stay careful, all right? Diego's throat tightened, but he forced his voice to remain steady. Thanks for the heads up, Olivia. I'll be extra careful. He hung up, his thoughts racing. Olivia's warning wasn't unexpected, but it made the air feel heavier. He turned toward the window, where Smarty lay curled in a patch of sunlight, her eyes closed but her body tense, always alert. Diego had learned to trust her instincts, and right now, her stillness felt more like a warning than a rest. As he moved toward the back of the house to check on Sam, Smarty suddenly leapt to her feet. She barked once, sharp, commanding, and her eyes locked onto the treeline, where the woods met the edge of the property. Her tail stiffened, and she crouched low, ready to spring. Diego froze. There were no sounds, no footsteps, but the air had shifted. He could almost feel it, thick with the presence of someone, or something, lurking just out of sight. Stay here, Smarty, Diego whispered. He moved toward the shed, his footsteps slow and deliberate. The hairs on the back of his neck prickled as he stepped out onto the porch, scanning the yard. The scent of pine and wet earth filled his nostrils, but there was something else beneath it, something metallic, like the sharp tang of fear that clung to the morning air after a storm. The dog was still watching the trees, her stance growing more agitated by the second. Something was approaching, something that had found them. Diego's heart skipped a beat. Sam, he muttered, turning back toward the house. He reached the back door just as the boy appeared in the doorway, his face pale, his eyes wide with the same fear Diego had seen in him from the moment they met. Is it them? Sam's voice cracked as he spoke, his hand shaking slightly. Are they here? Diego didn't answer. Instead, he grabbed Sam's arm and pulled him inside. Get in the basement. Stay down there. I'll keep you safe. But as he guided the boy toward the stairs, Smarty let out a warning bark, her growl deeper now. Diego's eyes darted to the window, where a dark shape passed along the edge of the woods. It was too late to hide. They had been spotted. Without thinking, Diego reached for his phone and sent a quick text to Olivia. They know we're here. They're close. His finger hovered over the screen for a second, before he added, we need backup. He turned to Sam, his mind racing. Listen to me. I need you to stay hidden. Don't move until I say so. He glanced out the window one more time before heading for the door. Stay quiet. And don't trust anyone. As he closed the door behind him, Diego felt the weight of the moment. He could hear the faint rumble of engines in the distance, the sound growing louder, clearer. They were coming. By the time Olivia arrived, the car engines had stopped, and the silence of the woods had been replaced with the soft crunch of footsteps. Through the trees, a group of men appeared. 4 of them, each wearing dark clothing, their faces partially obscured by shadows. They weren't being subtle anymore. They were coming for Sam. Olivia parked her car a distance away, her detective training making her cautious in every move. She and Diego met behind the house, where they discussed the situation quickly, their voices low. "This isn't just a few guys looking to bring a runaway back," Olivia said, her tone clipped. "They're part of something bigger. This is organized." Diego nodded, his mind still buzzing. "I've been digging, and it gets worse. Sam wasn't just running from some bad foster home. He's been part of something it's darker than I thought." Olivia's eyes hardened. "What do you mean?" "He's running from a trafficking ring," Diego said, his voice steady but laced with tension. "The people after him, they're the ones who control it, and they're not going to stop." Smarty, who had been watching the woods with unblinking intensity, suddenly let out a sharp bark, startling both of them. Her ears were pointed forward, and she began pacing restlessly around the yard, sniffing at the air. She was on alert, her senses telling her that something was closing in. The air felt thick, dense, like the world itself was holding its breath. Each whisper of the wind through the trees felt louder, each crack of a twig beneath Diego's feet more pronounced. The scent of pine and damp earth mixed with the faint tang of smoke, adding an unsettling undertone to the otherwise quiet evening. It was as if the land itself knew something dark was approaching. Diego turned to Sam, his hands gripping the door frame tighter. "Get inside now." Sam hesitated at first, his face a mask of confusion and fear. His gaze darted to the trees beyond, where shadows seemed to shift in a dance too smooth to be natural. Something was coming, something much bigger than the boy's past. Without another word, Sam ducked inside, the door closing with a soft thud. Diego's eyes remained fixed on the tree line, scanning for any movement. The tension hung in the air like the calm before a storm. The moments stretched out, every sound amplified. The hum of insects, the rustling leaves, the distant screech of an owl. Smarty was the first to react. Her body tensed, muscles rippling beneath her sleek fur as her growl grew louder, more insistent. She paced back and forth, the pads of her paws barely making a sound as they pressed against the earth. Her sharp eyes never left the darkening woods. Diego knew. The trap was set. There was no way out now. Before he could even reach for his phone to call for backup, a figure emerged from the shadows. A man, moving with purpose and a familiarity that struck Diego like a slap. His figure was outlined against the dimming sky, tall and broad-shouldered, his face hidden beneath a cap. But Diego knew him instantly. "Officer Cole?" Diego called, his voice low but carrying a note of disbelief. The man didn't flinch, didn't hesitate. His lips curled into a thin, almost contemptuous smile. "You should have stayed out of this, Diego. Now you're in too deep." The world seemed to slow as the realization hit. Officer Nathan Cole, someone Diego had worked alongside for years, someone he had trusted, was one of them, a part of the syndicate that had tormented Sam and countless others. "I should have known," Diego muttered, more to himself than to Cole. His hands clenched into fists, not out of rage, but to hold the control he was losing with each passing second. Cole stepped forward, his hands casually resting in the pockets of his jacket. "I tried to warn you, Diego. You think you can take down an empire with a dog and a few good intentions?" Before Diego could respond, Cole's hand shot out, revealing a gun. It glinted ominously in the dimming light, its cold metal almost mocking the warmth of the evening around them. The weight of it, the threat it carried, settled into the pit of Diego's stomach. Smarty didn't need any more prompting. In an instant, she launched herself at Cole, her teeth bared, her snarl filled with pure ferocity. The gun went off with a deafening crack, but the bullet missed. Cole stumbled, caught off guard by the dog's sudden attack. His hands fumbled with the weapon, but he was no match for Smarty's speed and strength. Diego moved, instinctively grabbing for the gun at his side. The weight of it felt foreign in his hand now. He had never wanted to use it, but this time, There was no choice. He fired, the shot echoing through the yard, but it wasn't aimed at Cole. It was a warning, a signal to let him know this was no longer a game. Cole's eyes widened as he staggered back, but he wasn't done yet. In a desperate move, he shoved Smarty away with his boot, sending the dog tumbling to the ground with a sharp yelp. The sound rang in the air, cutting through the night like a wound. Before Diego could react, Cole lunged at him. His arms locked around Diego, knocking him to the ground with surprising force. The cold ground scraped against Diego's back as they grappled, each second feeling like an eternity. But Smarty wasn't finished. She was up again in an instant, her body springing back to life. With a wild bark, she charged at Cole, her teeth sinking into the man's arm. He screamed, his grip loosening on Diego long enough for him to break free. Diego scrambled to his feet, his breath coming in short, shallow gasps. He reached for his phone, his hands slick with sweat, and sent a quick, terse text. "Cole's with them. We need backup. Now." The seconds dragged on as Cole pulled himself up, rage and pain clouding his face. But before he could make another move, the unmistakable sound of sirens wailed in the distance. Olivia was here. Diego didn't wait for Cole to recover. He grabbed Sam by the arm and pulled him into the house, urging him to move faster. The door slammed shut behind them, the sound of footsteps and shouting growing louder outside. "Stay down," Diego whispered urgently. "Stay out of sight. They're coming." Sam nodded, his face pale but determined, the weight of the moment sinking into him. This wasn't just about him anymore. This was about bringing everything into the light, about stopping this once and for all. Minutes later, Olivia burst through the door, her face tight with urgency, but her eyes sharp with focus. "We're not safe here," she said quickly. "We need to move." As the three of them huddled in the dim glow of the house's interior, they knew the fight wasn't over yet. The auction was the syndicate's final act, their last move to cover their tracks before they disappeared into the shadows once more. But this time, Diego was ready. The final assault was swift. Infiltrating the auction felt like a dream in motion, so much happening at once, the tension palpable, every second like a heartbeat that might stop any minute. The traffickers had no idea what was coming. As they entered the heart of the operation, Diego's eyes locked onto the mastermind, none other than the local figure who had run the youth shelters, the face that had been hidden in plain sight, using charity to conceal a network of horrors. Smarty sprang into action once again, her senses guiding them through the chaos. With a final, climactic confrontation, Diego and Smarty stood side by side, facing down the mastermind. His smirk was wiped away in an instant as he realized the jig was up. The police swarmed in, the sound of their boots on the ground filling the room, drowning out the last vestiges of the auction. In the aftermath, everything fell into place. The syndicate collapsed. The truth, once buried in the shadows, was exposed for all to see. Officer Cole and the others connected to the corruption were arrested. And Sam, he was free. With the storm finally behind them, Sam stood, his eyes filled with gratitude. "I owe you everything," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I can't." "You don't owe me anything," Diego interrupted, his voice calm. "It's over now. You're safe." As the weight of the past fell away, Diego and Smarty walked side by side knowing they had done something that mattered. They had brought justice to the darkness, and now there was only light ahead.